it's Mary. Today I'm filming part 1 of my February wrap-up just because I have already read 8 books in February, and although I know that it probably will what will probably happen is that as soon as I film this video I'll just stop reading but I don't want to end the month with like 12 books to talk about in one single video because I tend to ramble a lot, and then, you know, this means that I'm going to edit a lot and I just don't want to do that. So we're gonna try and split roughly. I'm gonna talk about 5 books today. The first 5 books that I read in the month of February. I'm not going, you know, from the worst, the one that I enjoyed the least to the one I enjoyed the most. So yeah, let's just go in the order in which I read them. First up, we've got a book that I finished actually the 31st of January, but I had already filmed my wrap-up for it for January, so I just thought I'd talk about it in February instead. And it ends with Revelations by Dodie Smith. And I'm very disappointed in this book because I gave this book 1 star. And I really don't like to give books 1 star because it means that it's just terrible, isn't it? It means that I should have probably DNF'd it. And I've gotten pretty good at DNFing books, I think. I was not a DNF'er when I was younger. I would just force myself to finish a book, even if I didn't enjoy it, just because I felt like I had to finish it. But lately, I think I have no problems in not finishing a book that I'm not enjoying because I don't want to waste my time reading that book. This one, though, it really wasn't because I had to finish it. I just wanted to see how bad it would get. And it's just so poorly written. The reason why I picked this one up is because I loved Dodie Smith's I Captured the Castle, which is her most famous book and well loved and known, even all over BookTube. It was one of my favorite books growing up. I was, you know, in my late teens when I read that one, and I read that in Italian because I didn't read in English still. And I remember looking for other books by her just because I had loved that one so much, but they weren't translated. So I was like, oh well, I guess I'll just set her aside, you know, as an author. Then when I grew up and I could read in English, I just thought I'd check out her other books. And I previously read The New Moon with the Old, which I also did not really enjoy that much. I gave it 3 stars, but I think I was generous with that rating. It was probably a 2-star read for me. And, you know, with this one, I now can say that I just don't want to check out any of her other books. I just wish that, I mean, I hope that I Captured the Castle is still good for me because I intend to reread that one in English. This one, okay, so I don't want to spoil really the plot, but again, I feel like I cannot really state how I feel if I don't say anything. But basically, this is the story of this young married woman. She's married to a theater actor. This was written in the 60s, and I believe it is sort of set around that period of time as well. And she befriends this man, this politician, who has 2 daughters that are in their teens, tweens. I don't really know. But yes, they're like teenagers. They become friends basically, and yeah, I mean. So if you intend to read this book for any reason, maybe because you like me, you've enjoyed I Captured the Castle, and you're just curious to check out more of her books, I guess there's sort of a spoilery part now. The narrative of this book is centered on this love story, sort of. Basically, this politician wants to woo this young woman that I don't really remember the name of, Jill. He sort of wants to woo her, and also the daughters just want to help because they really want their father, because, oh, I didn't say that he's single because his wife died, and there's sort of something about his wife that they also need to find out. But basically by, I think, not really the end of the book, but almost the end of the book, you find out that her husband is gay, and she actually knows about that. So it's not a revelation to her, and I don't feel like it should be for you as well, because yeah, it's about, I hate the narrative that, you know, a woman needs to be rescued from a marriage with a gay man that actually is very, like, the characters of Miles, who is the husband, the actor, he's actually pretty fleshed out. I think it's the only good character in this book, the only character that I liked and the more fleshed out, as I said, because the other ones are thrown in all together. They don't really have any personality nor any sort of likable features. It's not that they're really unlikable, they're just mildly annoying, like background noise, you know? That's what all the characters in this book are. And you sort of, I couldn't, you know, really root for her and this other man, because she didn't need to be rescued at all, because she had a nice relationship with this man, with Miles. They're not, you know, in any sort of beef. So yes, it's just a very lazy sort of narrative. Also, the gay character is ultimately a positive character where you are sort of misled to believe, as you should believe, that he's actually the bad guy, and there are like some heavy accusations on him that you sort of are made into believe that probably that are probably true because he's gay, but again, no, because he's a good gay guy, you know what I mean? So I know that this one is old, sort of. It was written in the 60s, so probably was very progressive for the time to be speaking about these things, but still I don't think that the topic was treated in the right way, and I really hated it, every minute of it. So yeah, I do not recommend this book at all. Then I read Things We Lost in the Fire by Mariana Enriquéz, which I guess I'm going to pop a picture of the English version here because I read it in the original Spanish. This book was the pick for Argentina for the Invisible Cities project for January, but I actually read this in February. I mean, I started this in January and I finished it in February. And again, this is a matter of me not really paying attention to what I personally enjoy and just being, you know, convinced by other people's tastes and opinions. But also, I felt like I knew that she was a pretty well-known author in Argentina, and I just wanted to check her out. But I don't usually enjoy short stories that much, and I don't read horror, and this is both of these things. It's sort of, I mean, it's not horror in the sense that I did not really get scared reading this book, but it's sort of unsettling and, I mean, proper creepy. Some of the stories are like, you know, haunted house style sort of stories, but the intent of this book is not to scare you. It's just to make you think, and how she uses horror in an extreme way to talk about issues that are political, but also, you know, social, concerning especially women in Argentina and their own sexuality, their own rights, the relationships between males and females with females as well, relationships between parents and daughters. So it was very layered as a book, and I could see, like, I gave this book 3 stars because I could see what the author was trying to convey, and it was interesting, but also I could see it maybe a little bit too much. It was a bit in your face for my taste, and I wasn't really impressed with her writing style as well. I mean, it was fine, it was good, but it was not, you know, something that I would pinpoint as, you know, as a gorgeous writing style. The first story, it was the one that I enjoyed the most. I don't really know the title in English. I don't even remember it in Spanish, to be honest, but I probably will insert it here. And I thought that one was, you know, it started very well and it was very effective as a story. And I was intrigued. I was actually, maybe I could enjoy, you know, horror short stories. But then, you know, I was a bit mild towards the characters. I couldn't really feel a lot reading this book. So it was just an okay book for me. Definitely though, recommend it if you sounds like something that you would enjoy. Like if you enjoy short stories and you enjoy horror, then of course check this one out. Then I listened to the audiobook of Citizen by Claudia Rankine, and it was a very short one, and I hadn't heard good things about it, but I should have maybe checked a little bit better how this book was produced, because I don't feel like the audio is the right means to consume this book, actually, because it's sort of a mixed media project where there is, you know, some poetry, some transcripts of videos, it's sort of a jumbled style, some pictures as well that complement the narration, and I didn't know that going in, because I usually don't want to know too much about books, but again, I'm sort of rethinking my approach, because yeah, then these things happen, and it's a pity because this is not a bad book at all. It mostly concerned microaggressions towards Black people in America, and it was written in 2014, so quite an old-ish but still relevant book, I would say. And again, I couldn't appreciate it fully just because I couldn't really pay attention to it. It was very sort of jumped to an topic and another, and I couldn't understand when this jump happened, how it happened, and I didn't see pictures or anything, so I was just trying to listen, and I couldn't follow it basically that well. So I feel like most of my, you know, the reason of my low sort of rating, because it's a 3-star rate for me, it was because I read it in this way. So I don't suggest you listen to the audiobook for this one, but possibly purchase it or, you know, get it from the library, but still you can actually see the words on the page and how they are spaced out, all the pictures and stuff that's, you know, that's inside. I feel like you could get much more out of it than I did. I didn't really have a lot of emotions towards it, just because it was very interesting, especially the first part, but then I remember a very sort of long chapter on Serena Williams that I don't know anything about, and I mean, I know that I am the problem because I am an Italian girl, woman, whatever, and I don't follow sports at all. So I mean, obviously there are things that you should know regardless, you know, if you enjoy sports, but it was just very, very long, and I was like, there are a lot of things in this book, and I felt like 30% of it was this chapter on Serena Williams, so I couldn't really appreciate it as it was, and yeah, I'm sorry, because again, it's very interesting and still relevant, as I said. So yeah, we've got this one. Then I read Woman at Point Zero by Nawal and Saadawi. This is a book translated from the Arabic. This is an Egyptian book translated by, I don't know, and I'm gonna leave the, you know, I'm gonna write it somewhere, but I read this one on ebook, and I actually enjoyed it so much that I purchased a paperback of this that I'm waiting for. And yeah, I gave this book 5 stars. This is my first 5-star read of the year, so let's celebrate for that reason. And I read this one again for the Invisible Cities project, because Egypt is one of the countries for this month. So I read this one because it's one of the most popular ones, and it was available on Script. The ebook was available on Script, so I was like, let's just, you know, jump into this bandwagon. And actually, I also buddy read this book with other people from the Invisible Cities project, which was a great experience for me, because even though I enjoyed it so much, I could see like other aspects of it that could be maybe, you know, that could be questioned a little bit more, because sometimes when you enjoy something a lot, you tend to level all the problems or issues that could arise. I mean, sometimes that happens, you know, when you're so blinded by the beauty of something. And this is a true story. That's what the author says, because I also listened to her speak in an interview for the BBC, I think 10 years ago now, but she was talking about this book, actually speaking English, and she said that this is a true story, but when they asked her if it's actually, you know, all of it is true, like what did she change? What did she invent, you know, to fit into the narrative? She doesn't really respond to that. She's a bit elusive on the topic. She's like, but what's reality? You know, every time that you tell a story, it's not true. I mean, it's not true 100% because you're telling it. And so I feel like this is a true story, but again, obviously she sort of changed maybe some bits. She just had to fit the narrative. But what I really enjoyed, so I didn't even say what this book is about. This is about a prostitute. This book was written during the 70s, I believe, in Egypt, and it's about a prostitute that is sentenced to death in prison because she killed a man. And this woman doctor, this psychiatrist, she has access to the jail in which the woman, Firdaus, that's her name, is, and she speaks to her before she gets executed, and Firdaus tells her story. And actually that's how it went, because Nawal el-Saadawi, she is a psychiatrist other than an author, and she was researching on neurosis for neurosis in Egyptian women, and for that reason she was directed to this prison in which this woman was, and she talked to this woman. So it's actually sort of the same, you know, what happens is true, as I said. And Firdaus had an awful life. She was abused, like major triggers for anything you could think of. Yes, she was abused, especially by people that she trusted, and from a very early age. And that really impacted on her life heavily, as you might imagine. So in a way, this was very, very thought-provoking and very strong, you know, as a statement. Although she says, because when she's asked, but what are you trying to say with this book? Are you trying to, you know, point the finger at someone? Because there's a lot of talk about, of course, women, and it means that men, especially Arabic men, are not seen in a very good light, especially in this sort of narrative. But she says that she doesn't really want to say anything with this book other than tell the story. And I feel like I felt this because she symbolized, obviously, the awful conditions in which a lot of women encountered themselves in Egypt, especially in that period of time. But I feel like it could be true nowadays as well. But also it's a very personal and tragic story in which she couldn't really find any tenderness or compassion. And she was basically mistreated by especially every male figure that she encounters. But there are really no positive characters, nor males nor females in this story. To me, this was compulsively readable. It's very short. It's sort of a novella more than a novel, I would say. But the way in which it was written, it had sort of repetitions of scenes, of dynamics that really reminded me of folk tales, or as somebody else said, as a Greek myth, you know, which sort of detracts you from the truth of the story. That could be annoying because sometimes, as we were discussing, I also said that I love to know, you know, if this is true, is this true or not? What parts are true and what parts are not? But ultimately, as the author herself says, it's not important. And yeah, I feel like it worked. It really worked for me. I didn't think it would, because when it first began, like the first 3 pages, I was like, I'm not sure about the style of this. But then it sort of really, you know, worked for me, and it was great. And she is great. The author is great. I love the interview that she gave. She also talked about, like, somebody asked her, how can we teach children, especially male children, how to respect, you know, women? And she was like, you don't teach anything to children, you just show them. You are the example. And that's so true. And I just agree with everything she said in that interview. She also talked about how much is lost in translation. That made me a bit sad. But yes, she said that words on a page are like lyrics to a song. So obviously you cannot translate that. So I suspect that this book in the original language is even more beautiful. But as I said, I rambled too much about this book already. I really loved it. I loved it, and I definitely recommend this to anyone because it's very thought-provoking and gorgeously written. Lastly, finally, I felt like I rambled a lot. We have Skincare by Hirons. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave this book 4 stars just because it really helped me. So it was great because there were a lot of things I didn't know about skincare. I mean, arguably, I don't know anything about skincare, so I don't know about your level of knowledge on skincare, but I found this book very useful, and I feel like I'm going to, as you say, here from the tabs, I'm going to reference this book a lot. And it also had some tips and some suggestions on products, but ultimately I feel like it was a little bit overwhelming for me. I just want to know what I have to buy for like specific condition or specific thing that I have. And I mean, it doesn't really say that much, but it does help a lot. And there are, you know, skincare routines for the mornings, for the evenings, what to do when you work out. A lot of info on ingredients. It's full of pictures as well. I just really enjoyed it, and as I said, I have bad skin and I'm 31, so hopefully this will help make it a little bit better, because I think it's about time. The main thing that I got from this is wash your face, people. Wash your face with a clean cloth every day, in the morning and in the evening, which is not that obvious, apparently. It was not obvious to me anyway. But yes, so this is it for the first part. I'm gonna talk about the other books that I read in a second video. So I hope you enjoyed. Please comment and let me know if you read any of the books that I mentioned, or if you're now inspired to, you know, pick up one of those that I talked about. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!